Hey, what's up? This your boy Norris. We're back with another sew along. Now today we're going to be working on my new No-Me pattern design, which is ME2152, a utility trench coat. Now listen, it has so many details. I'm talking oversized pockets, shoulder tabs, front and back overlay. Okay, so if you're new to sewing, this pattern might not be the first thing you should start with. I would advise you to go to sewitacademy.com where you can learn how to sew with no experience needed. All right, so grab your supplies and tools and let's get started. All right, like I said, today we'll be working on my latest No-Me pattern design, which is ME2152, and this is a utility trench coat. Now, it has a bunch of fire details in it, and we'll get into all of it during the order of construction. But if you look at the back, as always, you have your suggested fabrics, your notions, you have your sizes, and always go down and look at finished garment measurements to get an ideal desired fit. All right, so now let's go ahead and go through all the pattern pieces we'll need for this particular project. We'll need pattern piece number 10. Now this is the upper collar. You'll need one on the fold, and then cut another one out on interfacing, and it is cut on the fold, and the fold is right here. Pattern piece number 11. Now this is the under collar. You're going to cut one on the fold of fabric and one on the fold of interfacing, and just like the other one, the fold is right here. Pattern piece number 7. Now this is the flap. You want to cut 4 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 12. Now this is your collar band. You want to cut 2 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. And don't forget to mark all of your markings where you see the dots here. Pattern piece number 9. Now this is your tabs. You want to cut 4 of fabric and 2 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 14. Now this is the buttonhole guide. You don't have to cut anything out of this. You just lay it up against your jacket once we get to that portion of the construction and mark all of our buttonholes. Pattern piece number 13. This is your front band. You want to cut 1 of fabric and then 1 of interfacing. Pattern piece number 6. You want to cut 2 of these out of your fabric. This is your pocket. Pattern piece number 3. Now this is your upper sleeve. You want to cut 2 out of fabric. Pattern piece number 4, this is your undersleeve. You want to cut 2 of these out of your fabric. Pattern piece number 1, this is your front. You want to cut 2 of these out of your fabric. Now we have pattern piece number 5. This is your front overlay. Now this goes on top of the front, and you'll see once we get to that. And with all of the pieces, don't forget you do your markings. You have stitching lines here. You have your dots here for your pockets and your flaps. So every little dot, every little line that you see, right size only, make sure you only do the right side of that. And then it says right size only too for your buttons. So you just want to make sure you do all of your markings. Now we have pattern piece number 8. This is your back overlay. Pattern piece number 8. Now this is your back overlay. You want to cut 2 of these out of fabric. And then pattern piece number 2. This is your back. You want to cut 2 of these out of your fabric. Okay, so once you have all of your pattern pieces cut out of fabric and then the correct ones interface, we can begin order of construction. Okay, first things first, we're going to start with our back pieces. Now, this could be confusing. I just want to let y'all know. We have 2 pieces for our back, and we have 2 pieces for our back overlay. Now, we are working on the front and back pieces at the beginning, and then we're going to switch over to the front and back overlay. So for right now, we are working on the back pieces, okay? So we have a dart. This is the wrong side of my fabric. It's gonna be kind of difficult to tell with mine because mine look like the same side. So I'm going to verbally always say, this is the wrong side, this is the right side, okay? Since this is the wrong side, we're going to do our darts. As you can see, I have my markings, but if you look at the instructions, it's gonna tell you to do your darts with the wrong side touching. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do them with the right sides touching. So now we're going to take our dart and we're going to pin them. I like to take my pen and go through one line and then just peek over to see if it's going through the other line. As you can see, I am a little off. So I have to adjust my fabric a little bit. Boom, just like that. We're going to stitch and we're gonna sew off once we get to our marking, our dot, and then we're gonna hand tie a knot instead of back stitching, okay? So let's head to the machine, do this, come back, and then we'll continue. And when we get to the dot, we're going to not back stitch, we're just gonna completely sew off your fabric. And then now we're just gonna create a knot to tie it off. Okay, so moving right along back from the machine, we went ahead and did our darts, and then I pressed them towards the center back. Now, because we're doing flat felt seams, now the flat felt seam is a very clean finish when it comes to your seams, and we want to have very clean insides with this particular garment. Now, because of that, it is easier to do a flat felt seam if we sew wrong sides touching instead of right sides touching. Now, you're looking at the right side here, but this is the wrong side, and this is the wrong side of my back. Now, with wrong sides touching, you want to align them, and we're going to pin down the center back. Make sure you have your stitching lines basically aligned when it comes to both sides. Okay, so now that we have it pinned, you want to head to the machine, super easy, do a straight stitch all the way down using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, come back, and then we'll continue. All right, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, it is right side out, and you see is the right side is facing up, but we have the seam exposed on this side. Also, I probably should have mentioned before we start sewing, but the reason why I sewed it from the top down is to have the good top stitching on this side and the bobbing underneath. Now, I did that because I'm going to press my seam towards the right, and you're going to see that top stitching here instead of pressing it this way, and you're going to see the bobbing stitch. Okay, so just keep that in mind throughout the construction process, especially when we're doing the flat felt seams. Now, because I'm pressing them to the right, the one on the right is the one I have to trim, just the right side of that exposed seam allowance. Okay, don't touch the left one or the bottom one, as you can see on this side here. We're only going to trim this one down. So we're going to trim this down to about 1/4 inch. Be super careful not to trim anything else. Okay, so now to create that flat felt seam, we're going to take the side we didn't trim, and we're just going to lay it over until we get to the stitching on the other side, and then we flip it over just like this, and as you can see, it creates a little fold, right? And then that's the part that we top stitch to create the flat felt seam. Okay, so now I'm about to start this. All right, so now I'm about to go ahead now. Once you flip it, you can give it a press to keep it in place. I'm creating a rain jacket, so I shouldn't press too much with this particular material. And then once I get it in place, I'm just going to pin. And then I'm just going to continue all the way up, tuck, press, and pin. Okay, just like that. I'll do it a few more times. Also, go ahead and take your time, finish this process all the way up to we get to the neckline. Okay, so we at the machine, as you can see right here. I got that tucked and folded over, and then I pressed and pinned it. So now I'm just going to put this up under here and put that needle just on this side here to catch that fold, and I'm gonna do that all the way down. Basically add stitching all the way down. Okay, so now you want to finish this process all the way down to the hem of your jacket. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, we have it has a double stitching effect to it with the flat felt seam. And then on the inside, it's nice and clean. We didn't have to serge anything. So right now, I'm just going to grab our front pieces real quick. Now with our front pieces, I did a stay stitch stitching 5/8 of an inch away from the edge here along the neckline. And then once you do that, there's a dot on the inside. Now you want to just clip to that dot just like that, without going through your stitching. Okay, now I'm gonna put this to the side for just a moment. All right, and then now we're just going to attach our front and back pieces to the side seam, and then also shoulder seam with wrong sides touching. Now, this is the wrong side, this is the wrong side. The wrong sides are touching, and we're going to pin them the same exact way that we did our center back seam. So now we're going to head to the machine. We're going to stitch across your shoulders using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then down the side seam using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then once you come back, you're going to do the exact same process that we did when it came to our flat felt seams for the center back seam. Now we're going to do that exact same way. It is a timely technique, so if you need any help, just rewind and go back and look at the first one. I will not be doing the flat felt seams for every single seam in this project. All right, so go ahead and stitch across your shoulders, stitch across your side seam using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Come back, do your flat felt seams, and we'll continue to the next step. Because I'm back from the machine, we did our side seam and our shoulder seam. Now, before you do your flat felt seams, I just had to let you know we're gonna press towards the back. So that means you want to trim that seam allowance towards the back, not the one on the front, and the same with the shoulder. And then once you trim it down, then you're gonna take that front one and then tuck it over, press it and pin it, and then stitch to finish off your flat felt seams for both of these seams, okay? So I just want to give you a guide on which one to trim before you tuck and press and stitch. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and as you can see, we have our side seams completely finished and also our shoulders, and it looks really good on the inside. So before we move on, the instructions and envelope do not have this step. It has you using a 1-inch twill tape to create a casing. I don't want to create my casing like that. I'm going to go ahead and do a buttonhole on this side where that marking is, and then one on this side. And I'm going to use like a 1/2-inch button so I can get a good, decent size. And I'm going to create that buttonhole that way. Okay, so we're only going to do it on these layers. So this front layer is going to be on the inside of the jacket, so you won't see the buttonhole on the outside. So I just want to let you know, if you're going to follow the way I'm doing it, this is how I'm going to do it. So go ahead and create buttonholes going this way, and then the other buttonholes going that way, and use the buttonholes instructions that comes with your machine. So it's going to be that marking right there is where I'm going to create that buttonhole, which is literally just past the 2 stitching lines for the casing. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and create my buttonhole going this way. If you're doing the way I'm doing it, do it the exact same way. But if you're not doing it this way, I will show you how to do it the other way as well. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, we did our buttonholes on both sides. Now let's put this to the side, and now we're going to work on our sleeves. For our sleeves, this is right sides facing up right now, so you're looking at the right side. You should have 2 notches on this side here, one here, and then 1 notch here. So we're going to take these and match them, but we're not doing right sides facing, we're doing wrong sides facing. So I'm going to flip this to the wrong side, and I'm just going to slide this like this. Now it's wrong sides facing. And I'm just going to pin. Okay, so go ahead and go to your sewing machine. You want to stitch all the way down to your hem using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and we're going to be pressing this seam towards the upper sleeve. So we're going to be trimming off this side, the one I have my fingers on, and this right side here is going to go over that one. So I'm going to go ahead and trim real quick. Okay, so in the same way we've been doing the other flat felt seams, you want to go ahead and take this, put that raw edge right where that seam is, and then we're going to press over just like this. and then you want to top stitch, making sure that you edge stitch right on the fold right there. All right, so you want to do this the same exact way we've been doing the other ones. Come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, the top stitching, and this is underneath. So we're wrong sides facing again. And also, I should note, you want to sew it with the understitch facing up because we're pressing it to the upper sleeve, and you will get that nice top stitching once we press over. So let's go ahead and pin this real quick, and we're gonna do the same exact thing. Be sure to align both of your notches. Okay, so go ahead and stitch down 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then you want to trim off the seam allowance that's closer to the upper sleeve, and then do the same exact thing we did to the other side. Fold over, tuck, press, and then edge stitch it closed. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and I also went ahead and trimmed and then pressed my seam towards the upper sleeve, and then also I pinned it all the way down. So the best way to do this at the machine to get a nice top stitch, I like to turn it inside out, even with it pinned and everything. So I kind of grab the hem and I pull it out through the top. Okay, just be very careful because you do have it pinned. So now what we're gonna do is fit this just like this up under the machine, and we're just going to stitch every 2 or 3 inches at a time, and then adjust. Stitch 2 or 3 inches at a time because you only have a small window, and then adjust. Okay, so let's head to the machine. I'll give you a better look on what this is supposed to look like when you're sewing it. Okay, so first I'll try to slide it all up under here until you get to the hem. Here we go. Okay, so you can see right where it starts. So I'm going to put my needle down. Okay, adjust and stitch. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and the only thing I do is turn it back right side out, and now we have a nice flat felt seam on both sides of our seam. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and grab your front and back pieces. So once you do one sleeve, you want to do the other sleeve the same exact way. And then now we're going to go ahead and attach our sleeves to our front and back pieces. Okay, so we're back from the machine, and as you can see, I did both sides with the flat felt seams, as you can see here. Now, it don't say it in the instructions because you really don't need it. Depends on your fabric, but I got a pretty stiff fabric. I'm making mine to be more of a rain jacket. And the sleeve cap, I need to ease that in a little bit more. So I did 2 basting stitches, and I'm just going to just do a little gathering to make it easier for me. Now, again, you might not have to do this depending on what type of fabric you have, but if your sleeve is having some trouble fitting, this is one way to kind of ease in some of that space. So just do a little ease stitching here. So that should be plenty for me, and you see how it kind of rounds out just a little bit. Now you want to keep your sleeve right side out, as you can see, but for your jacket, your front and back pieces, you want it to be wrong side out. So right side out, wrong side out. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna slip this sleeve on the inside. So now it's gonna be right sides facing on the inside. Now all I gotta do is find my double notch first, because that's the easiest one to find for me. And we're going to pin your sleeve and your jacket together at the armhole. Okay, now you want to go all the way around to make sure you're pinning your other notches and other markings. Okay, so we're gonna head to the machine. We're gonna stitch all the way around using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And once again, this is gonna be right sides facing. We're gonna stitch all the way around, come back, and let's continue. As you can see, I took my detachable sleeve off my machine to make it easier for me to go around my armhole. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, we have our sleeves attached. And once you do one sleeve, you want to do the other one the same exact way. And then now we're going to trim the seam allowance that's closest to the sleeve. So not this one on top, but the one underneath, okay? So we're gonna trim it down just under a 1/4 inch. So the best way to trim it so you can see it is to flip everything up the opposite way like this. And now you can see that seam that's attached to the sleeve. So now I'm just gonna go ahead and just trim. Okay, now we're gonna turn it back down, just like this. Okay, so once you got it back down towards the sleeve, we're gonna do flat felt seams again. But this is a little different because it wasn't wrong size facing, it was right size facing. But still the same premise. You want to go ahead and take that raw edge and bring it to that seam and then turn it down just like this. And we're gonna give it a really good press and then we're going to pin it. Okay, so you want to follow the same technique all the way around, and then once you do that, I'm gonna go ahead and pin on the right side because I haven't turned it right side out yet. Just like this on this side, and then we're going to stitch to catch that fold underneath, or if you want to look at it, you can just edge stitch all the way around, but just know your bobbin thread is going to be on top if you do it that way. I like to do it this way, so the top stitch on the right side, okay? I like to do it this way. I can feel where that fold is, so I can be right on the edge even though I don't see it. I won't have my bobbin thread on this side if I do it this way. But like I said, if you want to be able to see it, you can edge stitch this side, but just know your bobbin will be visible here. Okay, so go ahead and press and pin it in place and head to the machine so we can top stitch. Okay, so I've turned mine's right side out, and then now I'm top stitching to catch the fold underneath. If you want to do it the other way where you can actually see your stitching on the edge stitch of that fold, it would be wrong side out right now. I'm able to put my hand right here and I can feel that fold. Okay. Now you're gonna follow this all the way around to the other side until you top stitch it just like this. Okay, now that we have our sleeves attached and we have the top stitching on our sleeves here, we're gonna move along to our collar, upper collar and collar band. Okay, now that we have our upper collar, we need 2 rows of basting stitches to create gathers from our double notches to our dot, which is on the inside here, our marker, and then from our dots underneath from here to here, okay? So here, and here, and then here, and here. And then basically, if you know how to gather, you're gonna back stitch at the beginning, but not at the end. So you can pull and just get a little gather here because this is gonna be a little bit bigger than our undercollar for it to roll underneath, okay? So once you do that, you can gather it now a little bit, not too much, but you wanna make sure that you have it there for when we need it. Okay, so I'm gonna turn it upside down for right now. We're going to attach our collar band, and there should be 2 double notches on both sides. Pin there first. Okay, so now we're gonna head to the machine, just stitch across. Okay, so I'm back from the machine. I pressed my seam allowance down, as you can see, and I edge stitched all the way across. And as you can see, I put my label here. This is the perfect time to do it if you don't want to stitch through all layers at the end. Okay, now we're going to attach this to the jacket. Okay, now this is the wrong side of the neckline here, and we're going to place the right side to the wrong side. Now this looks like right side spacing, but my fabric almost looks the same on both sides, so that's why I'm verbally saying this is the wrong side and this is the right side. Okay, so now we're going to match up our notches and our marking. Okay, now if your fabric doesn't give at all and you have a few gaps that won't close up, you can take your scissors and cut a few snips so it can spread just on your neckline, not on the band, and then that'll expand a little bit and you'll be able to make it work. Okay, so now we're gonna head over to the machine and we're gonna start at one dot here and we're gonna go all the way over to our other dot on the other side using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so we're back for the machine. As you can see, I went ahead and pressed that seam towards the jacket. And then also I trimmed off some of that seam allowance just attached to the collar band here. I trimmed that down to about 3/8 of an inch. I left the jacket seam allowance neckline alone. Okay, now that we have our upper collar attached, we can now begin working on our front and back overlay. Okay, so this is the neckline of the front overlay piece. Just like the front piece, you want to do a stay stitch 5/8 of an inch, and then you want to do a little slit to that stitching, but not through it, right where you have your marker at right here, as you can see on the wrong side. And then now we're going to go ahead and put this to the side for just a moment and work on our front patch pocket. So with this pocket piece, if you see here, this is the top. I went ahead and pressed up a 1/4 inch. And then once you turn it right side facing up, you have that 1/4 inch tucked in across the top. And then there is a fold line here. I did notches to indicate those. And once you fold it just like that, you want to pin each side. Okay, so now just head to your machine and you want to stitch from here to here using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Or if you want to create a fold guide, you can stitch all the way around, pivot across the bottom, and then up the other side using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm not going to do that because I don't need that guide to fold and press after this. So I'm just going to stitch here using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. I'm going to go ahead and trim some of the corner here. Start close to the corner and then trim out. And then now I'm turning right side out. And take your point turner and press out your corners. Okay, so that 1/4 inch that we tucked in is going to give us a clean finish on the inside when we top stitch on the right side. So now we want to give this a good press and then go ahead and press 5/8 of an inch across the bottom and sides just like this. All right, so give this a good press, and then once you come back, we're gonna go ahead and then do a top stitching across the top to close out the top of this pocket hem. Okay, so we're back from the pressing table. As you can see right here, we have everything pressed in, and then I did that row of top stitching that closes out that hem on the top of the pocket. So now we're gonna take our pocket and place it where our markers are on our front overlay piece. Okay, so my markers are here. All I have to do is place that right within those, just like this, and I'm going to pin. So I want to keep the pocket parallel with the front. That's how I know that it's in the right place. Okay, so let's head to the machine. We're going to edge stitch first all the way around, and then we're going to do another top row stitch a 1/4 inch away from the first one. Okay, now that we have this row here, we're going to do a second row, a 1/4 inch on the inside of the first one, the same exact way. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, I did 2 rows of top stitching here on the patch pocket, and then now we're going to move along to our flaps. Now, right sides facing. So we're going to pin across the sides and then bottom, keeping the top open. Now let's pin. So now we're going to head to the machine and stitch all the way down across to the other side using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance, keeping the top open. Okay, now I'm just going to trim this down. I'm going to get a little closer once I get to my curves. And then also the point, just a little closer. Okay, turn the right side out. Give it a really good press. Okay, so give this a really good press, and then we're going to top stitch it a 1/4 inch away from the edge across the bottom and then the sides. And after that, you want to do your buttonhole, and you want to use whatever instructions that come with your machine. So once you do all of that, come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine. We did our top stitching and then also our buttonhole. So now we have to place it onto our front overlap piece where our markings are right here. So I went ahead and did a guideline here on the bottom. So now I can just line up Okay, so now let's head to the machine. Go ahead and stitch all the way across following this guide, 5/8 of an inch from the edge of the flap right here, and come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back. We're going to trim this down to about a 1/4 inch. Okay, so we're just going to fold down, give it a good press, and then we're going to top stitch it a 1/4 inch away from the fold here. Okay, so once you do one side, you want to do the other side the same exact way when it comes to your front pockets and your flap. Now for the back overlay pieces, you want to do them the same exact way as the back pieces. You want to go ahead and do both of your darts up here at the shoulders and press them towards your center back seam. Okay, so with our overlay pieces, that includes the front and then also the back. Now the back, you have those darts up here that we did. You want to press those towards the center back seam. And the construction is the same. You want to pin them wrong sides facing, do your flat felt seams, and then take your front pieces and attach it to the shoulders and also the side seam, the wrong side, and then do your flat felt seams. Now, if you need any help or you forgot how to do it, just go back to our back and front pieces and it is the same exact way. Okay, so construct your front and back overlay pieces together the same way we did our front and back pieces. Come back and then we'll continue. Okay, so we're back for the machine and we put together our overlay pieces, the front and also the back. We have our flat felt seams on the sides, and then also on the shoulders we have our flat felt seams here. So now what we're gonna do is apply our tabs. Now tabs are super easy, right sides facing. I'm just going to put a couple of pins to hold it in place. Okay, we're right sides facing. You want to stitch along the sides and then across the bottom here where you see that V. And we're going to leave this part right here open so we can turn it right side out. So after you stitch it, come back and we'll continue. Okay, we're back from the machine. Let's go ahead and trim some of these corners. Now turn it right side out with a point turner. Okay, so once you turn right side out, give it a really good press, and then head to your machine, and you're going to edge stitch along the sides, also with the V's at the front, and then down the other side, leaving this spot right here open. And that's going to be a 1/4 inch away from the edge, and then once you do that, you want to go ahead and do your buttonhole, and then come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, as you can see, and top stitch, and then we did our buttonhole. Now if you look at the tab like this, it's slanted if you did the one for the right shoulder. Now the slanted part right here goes towards the back where the big dot is, and then this right here goes towards the front where the small dot is on your markings. Now we just want to go ahead and see, I got a dot right here. Place that right in the middle of that dot, and I should have it lined up right on that shoulder seam. Okay, so I'm going to put a pin in that real quick. And I'm going to go ahead and base this down. So do that, come back, and then we're going to do a narrow hem along the armhole. Okay, we're back from the machine. We went ahead and tack that down, and we're going to flip the tab like this. And on the inside, it's going to automatically turn over 5/8 of an inch around the armhole. So you want to just turn over 5/8 of an inch all the way around. And towards the bottom, if you need to cut a few little small slits for it to span so you can do the double fold, you can do that. You might not have to do it, but my fabric is a little bit stiffer. So once you turn in that 5/8 of an inch like this, you want to take that raw edge and turn it in to that crease where it creates a double fold when you turn it like this. Okay, it's just a double fold, and then you want to go ahead and pin it in place so it don't move. Do it for the tab too, and you want to keep your tab facing out the entire time. And then I'm going to pin it on the right side. Okay, you want to continue that all the way around the armhole. And then once we get to the machine, we're going to stitch 2 rows of top stitching, one very close to the edge where that fold is, and then the second one is going to catch the fold underneath, and it's going to create a double top stitch. Okay, so go ahead and finish pressing, tucking, and pinning, and we're going to head to the machine and top stitch this down. Okay, so I'm going to start with the first one a 1/4 inch away from the edge here, and as you can see, my tab is still pulled out. Okay, so on the other side, you can see I caught it, and then next we just have to do a second row close to that fold here on the edge, and there'll be 2 rows of top stitching. So continue these 2 rows all the way around your armhole. Okay, as you can see, we went ahead and did 2 rows of top stitching here all the way around both sides of my armholes. And then now you can flip your tab over, and this is where your button is going to be placed. So I'm going to go ahead and put a pin to keep it in place for right now. Okay, so our tabs are nicely done. And then next, you're going to go ahead and take your undercollar and you want to put it together and attach it with your collar stand the same exact way, or your collar band the same exact way. And then also remember to press your seams down. There's only 3/8 of an inch seam allowance here. And then you want to edge stitch this all the way to the other side, just like this. All right, so now once you put this together, you know how to do it because it's the same way we did the upper collar. So I'm gonna turn this around. And instead of placing this right side to wrong side, we're gonna place it right side to right side. So there's a dot here, and we're gonna place it matching this dot here. So right sides together. Match up your notches. And this marking here is supposed to go right where that shoulder seam is. Okay, so once you get here, you can see if you have a little space, if your fabric does not give it all, you can just take your scissors and cut little slashes only on your neckline, not your collar band. Once you cut, it expand the fabric a little bit, as you can see right here, so everything will fit. So finish pinning in the remaining spaces. Okay, so this is right side facing, like I said, which is opposite from the upper collar and the front and back pieces, but we're gonna stitch it the same exact way. You wanna start on one marking, that dot, and then go all the way over till we get to your other marking right here. And then you wanna press all your seams towards the coat. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, we have our under collar attached to the front and back overlays. And then, like I said, we press that seam down. And I only trimmed the seam allowance from the collar and collar band. I left the seam allowance to the neckline, as you can see. It's a little bit longer. All right, so now let's go ahead and grab your front and back pieces. And we're working only at the collars. So we're right sides facing. This is the right side of the collar. And the right side of the undercollar, we're going to match up our dots here at the collar only, and we're going to pin. This is where you need to adjust your gatherings right here so it could fit, because the upper collar is just a little bit bigger. So once you make sure you have it in the right place, you want to go ahead and pin it. And then don't forget about the gathering from here to here on the upper collar. Match your double notches. So now we're going to head to the machine. We're going to start at our dot here, go up, pivot at this dot, go all the way across the collar, and then pivot here at this dot, and then we're ending at our marking here, okay? We're going to leave all of this alone. We're only working on our collar. Okay, so while we're still here at the machine, we want to do some under stitching for our under collar. Now this is the upper collar and this is the under collar. And at the top of the collars, as far as you can get to the corner, we're going to do some under stitching. So with the seam allowance towards the under collar, we're going to put our needle on the under collar side, but very close to that seam, all right? Remember to keep all your seam allowances flat to the left side. So you want to go as far as you can until you can't anymore. You don't want to force it all the way to the corner. Okay, we're back from the machine. We did our under stitching, as you can see. And now I'm just going to clip some of my corners. Okay, so now that we did all that, go ahead and pin the rest of this here. So this is the right side of the overlay, and this is the wrong side of the coat, which is the front and back pieces. Now, like I said, you can't really tell the difference from my right and wrong side, but I'm telling you, this is the right side, this is the wrong side, and it should already be easy for you to go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and pin on the top and then down this center front. Then you want to do the bottom hem. Go ahead and pin down here as well. Now that we have everything pinned, we're going to start here. We're going to sew 5/8 of an inch, pivot it right here, go all the way down the center front, pivot down here at the hem. We're going to go all the way across, but at the hem, you want to leave at least 6 or 7 inches so we can turn everything right side out. So you want to back stitch, cut your threads, and then skip over 6 to 7 inches, and then continue all the rest of the way along the hem, and then up the other center front, and then pivoting right back here to our small dot. Okay, so let's head to the machine, knock all that out, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so now I'm gonna leave an opening, so I'm gonna back stitch, cut my thread, and I'm gonna move down about 6 or 7 inches like I said, so everything can be turned right side out. And now you wanna continue 5/8 of an inch all the way across the rest of the hem, up the center front, and then to your marking at the top. Okay, so we back from the machine. As you can see, I left a little opening here at the bottom of the hem. So now let's go ahead and trim our corners and just a little bit of our seams. Okay, so let's go ahead and turn everything right side out. And once you do that, you want to point all your corners out as well. Okay, so you want to take your time and get this a really good press. And the same way you saw me point out my corners, you want to do the same thing. So now you want to go in between the overlay, and we're going to pull out the collar, just like this. So you want to take your collars, upper and lower collar, and we're going to pin it so we can stitch them in place so the collar won't be moving. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to start on one side and stitch all the way across to the other side, or as far as you can get through all thicknesses, just so we can stitch those collars in place. Okay, so we're back from the machine. Now we can push this back to the outside, and then now your collar is in place and it won't shift at all. Okay, so go ahead and give everything a really good press. You want to press up your remaining seam allowance here at a little slit, because there's no need for us to get back in there now. So once we just fold it under, give it a good press, and then we can slip stitch that close. So go ahead and take your time, give this a really good press, point out your corners, and we're gonna move to the next step. Okay, so we're back from the machine. I went ahead and did all of my top stitching around the center front and then hem, and also around the collar. And then also I did my 2 rows of top stitching where you see the stitching lines, and that automatically made a casing for my twill tape. Now the next step would be to insert the twill tape, but I'm gonna wait to the very end so I can do my buttonholes and all that stuff without it being scrunched up, because it will create a gather when you pull the twill tape. Also, the other step I told y'all was gonna show you, if you didn't want to do the buttonholes and you wanted to use the twill tape, only thing you needed was the 1-inch twill tape, and you're just going to basically put it right over your entire stitching on the inside of this coat. And then you can either edge stitch on both sides all the way from side to side, or you can top stitch it, making sure that you encasing both sides of the twill tape. Now this right here is not, well, a 1 inch is probably gonna look like this. You're just basically gonna place it over here and then edge stitch both sides. And then you'll take the 3/8 of an inch twill tape, or 1/2 inch, I got a 1/2 inch, and basically you're just gonna swift it through. Now we're gonna do it at the very end, but now we can go ahead and work on our front band. Now this is the first front band right here. Move this out the way. So what we're gonna do is, with right sides facing, we're going to fold it onto itself, and we're gonna pin to the top. And then this side down here to the bottom. So when you get to your machine, you're gonna stitch from this side all the way to this fold here using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. And then the same thing on this side from here to here using 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So do that, trim your seams, turn it right side out, give it a good press, and then we'll continue. Okay, so here we go. We're back from the machine. We went ahead and trimmed our corners and our seam allowance and turned it right side out. Gave it a really good press, and then top stitch a 1/4 inch away from the edge across the top, down this side here, and then along the bottom. And then as you can see, I went ahead and did my buttonholes. Now this is the perfect time to do your buttonholes for this piece, because we will attach it right now to our coat. And it will be very difficult to do buttonholes after you attach this piece, okay? Now you wanna use your manual for your instructions, however you do buttonholes for your machine, because some machines are different. So go ahead and take the time to do that. And once you do that, we're gonna go ahead and place it onto our coat. Now, there's a stitching guide from here to here. Mine's a little faded, but I can still see it. And the best way to put it in the right place, because it's gonna go like this after we flip it, but you wanna do a guideline, a stitching guideline right here, 5/8 of an inch away from the raw edge here, okay? So there's a dot here where you want to place the top. I'm gonna grab my pins. I'm just gonna pin, making sure I have it on that guideline. And I'm gonna follow this process all the way down. Okay, so now head to the machine. You're just gonna do a straight stitch starting at the top, going all the way down to the bottom of this front band where your marking is, okay? So go ahead and do that, and when you come back, trim this down, and we're gonna turn and press it. Do that, come back, and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back from the machine, as you can see, and I went ahead and trimmed this seam allowance down about 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, and then you want to turn it like this and give it a good press, and then we're just going to top stitch it a 1/4 inch away from where this seam is, where we folded the band. So just a 1/4 inch along this side, and that'll keep it from moving backwards like that. So go ahead and do that, come back, and we're going to insert our twill tape through our casing. Okay, so we're back from the machine. As you can see, we top stitch this down. Look at that, looking really, really good. And then now we're gonna grab our twill tape. Now, you could use a safety pin, just hook it and then shift it through. But I'm gonna use this little gadget, does the same thing. And then I'm going to go ahead and insert it. Now I have it the same length from buttonhole to buttonhole, but then I'm gonna pull a little bit and then cut just so I can get a little bit of that gather. Okay, so once you get one end out, I'm gonna go ahead and make a little knot. Now I don't plan to adjust this at all in the future. I'm just gonna keep it the way it is. But then after I try it on, I can kind of pull this one and gather as much or let it out as much as possible, and then I can tie my knot, okay? So you can determine how much you want to pull or take out whenever you do yours, okay? So the last thing to do is to make your buttonholes on this side right here, and you want to use your buttonhole guide just like this, but also make sure those buttonholes should match up with these here too, okay? And then also you want to place your buttons underneath your band here, because the buttons are going to be here. It's going to go through these buttonholes, and you can just wear it like that open, or you can button this side first and then button this, and then now you have double protection when it comes to this coat here, okay? And that's kind of how this utility coat is meant to be worn if you button it all the way up. So just a reminder, so again, you want to do your buttons here. This way you sew your buttons on. Use your buttonhole guide for your left side along this side here, and then put your buttons on your pockets here, and you button that down with your flaps. And then you have buttons here that you add at your shoulders so you can button down your tabs. And then you want to do your 1 1/4 inch hem on your sleeve. Now, since everything is clean, you want to press under 1/4 inch, and then again 1 inch, so you have a clean finish hem on the inside. You won't see no serging or no raw edge fabric. It will be nice and clean and tucked, okay? And once you do that, just give it a really good press again at the end, and you're all done. All right, congratulations, you're all done. Now, I hope you enjoyed this sew along, and I want to see all of your amazing makes, so please tag me on socials at Norris Danta 4, and I will see you in the next video.